and welcome to the What to Read Next podcast. In this podcast, your host, Gloria Me, will invite a bookish guest to share their favorite book recommendation. If you share a passion for books and always looking for your next read, then join us. Welcome to the What to Read Next podcast. Today's bookish guests, Kalisa and Katie from K4 Reads. Hi, Katie and Kalisa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I guess I'll go first. So I'm Kalisa. I'm 32. Katie and I live in Long Beach, California. Not together, although that would be ideal.
That would be ideal.
It would be.
We would just share books. It would be great. But Katie and I have been friends since we've actually been in high school. And I had to count and make sure, but I'm pretty sure we've been friends for 16 years.
I think that's about right. That sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were both in yearbook, and then we met, and then we hated each other for a little bit, and then we came back together and best friends ever since.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't really like each other because, because our boyfriends at the time were best friends, and I think they kind of pinned us against each other. To be honest, they were kind of sort of.
I think so, a little bit.
Yeah. So it wasn't until after they both dumped us that we're just like, okay, screw them, we're friends now.
Oh my God.
That's actually almost exactly how it went.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And you've been reading ever since. Have you been sharing book recommendations since high school?
We actually just started deciding that we wanted to read together about a year and a half ago, I think, because we started our Instagram in August of last year. Okay. And we've been maybe talking, because I think neither of us really realized that the other was reading as much as we were.
Yeah, well, you were always reading way more.
Yeah. I've been a reader for a long time, although I did take a pretty long break during college. I really didn't read at all for fun during college or grad school. So there was a 4-year gap of no fun books. But as a kid, I was a huge reader. I have cystic fibrosis, so I do a lot of breathing treatments. And that kind of, reading kind of takes my mind off doing that. And it's something for me to do. During grad school, I watched a lot of Netflix and reality shows. But once I started reading again, that was kind of all downhill from there. And I was able to jump back into it really quickly. So when we decided to kind of start buddy reading things, we kind of toyed with Instagram for, I want to say a month or two. And then one day we were just okay, we're going to do it. We're just going to make it. And then it did really well, which I was surprised by. When we hit 1,000 followers, I was totally shocked because I think we only had our Instagram for less than a month.
Our minds were blown. Yeah.
It was crazy. But in all honesty, we were this is going to keep us accountable. We're going to read all these books together. Have we read more than 10 books together over the past year? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. Well, I mean, it was mostly just was kind of what a book club is sort of what we wanted to do. That was the original idea. And it was kind of on Goodreads at first. And then we just kind of ignored Goodreads and just stuck with Instagram because that was just more engagement and just easier to use.
I can't even think the last time I logged into our Goodreads. We have a K4 Reads book club on there, and cannot even think of the last time I logged into it. I kind of forget it exists.
What is the current book that it says that we're reading on there?
It might be. It's probably Where the Crawdads Sing, which is funny because I think that's also our last non-romance buddy read.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my gosh! So you've been buddy reading romance lately,
yeah.
Right?
When we do, yes.
Okay. That's been the favorite. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your romance journey because you both have interesting journeys. So when did you start reading romance?
I've been reading romance since probably since high school. I think that's actually what got me into reading in the first place because that's all that I was interested in, probably because I was perpetually single. So it was wishful thinking.
Oh my gosh.
I seriously was the perpetually single friend for the longest time. And so I talked about this on Instagram before in my review for Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl, but actually what got me really into reading, I used to hate reading. I'm on the autism spectrum, so I think that kind of affected my learning level, my reading level. So it was actually reading fan fiction that kind of got me into my love of reading and then graduating to actual books. Ooh. But there was always romance in it, always. And again, like I said, wishful thinking. So I think that's when, like I said, Kalisa, had said before that, she wasn't always into the romance thing. So I kind of had to sort of, evolve her into that genre.
Yes, it's very true. But I know when I haven't, because Katie and I are best friends. And if she's not mentioning a book to me for a little while, sometimes I'll stalk her Goodreads and it's not been updated. I'm like, she's reading fan fiction. She's fallen into the hole.
It's so true. And if I finish a book that I really like, I'll be like, is there fan fiction for this book?
Yep.
Now
or she'll start writing her own too.
I started looking for fan fiction too. So tell me, what are your go-to fan fictions that you go to?
Well, always Harry Potter. Always.
Okay. And what type of Harry Potter? Are you doing the Draco and Harry Potter? Or?
I am a Draco. I am a Hermione. I am a Draco Hermione fan. In fact, Kelly, you should see this new t-shirt I got. Asking me about my ship. Sean got me this great t-shirt. Yeah, it's where it says, ask me about my ship. And then you lift up the hem of the shirt and it's Draco and Hermione.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
Oh. Okay, we're definitely going to have a post of that because I think that
I know. I'm going. Yeah, I was actually going to. I just hadn't had a chance to get a good picture of it yet. I'll post about it.
I can't wait to see the post. How about you, Kalisa? How is your romance reading journey?
So I fully admit to being one of the snobby readers who was like, I'm never going to read romance. Mm-hmm. I'm too good for this. I only read literary fiction and thrillers. And I was like that for, okay, let's see. I started reading really heavily again, I think in 2017, because it was after I got married. And I only read thrillers, literally for months, until the point where I got so burnt out on them that I can't even pick up a thriller. I read one thriller this year and thankfully I loved it. It was the 2 Lila Bennett's. I really loved that one, but I've tried some other ones and I just cannot. So I just got totally burned out. And then I felt so bored with literary fiction. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was, the holidays. I was like, oh, I want to read something cozy and fun. And I had read some that I want to call like romance light. Okay. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid so much. And I read One True Loves and it was like mind blowing for me because I was like, this is like a romance and it's like kind of like a love triangle, but I loved it. It's like one of my all-time favorite books. And so after that, I was kind of more open. I tried like some authors who, if you're in the Freak Between the Book Sheets group, you've heard me rant about because I don't think they're romance now. But at the time, I was like, oh, I'm reading all this like romance. And I refused to read romance with a traditional cover. So it had to have a cute cover. It had to have, no shirtless dudes. I had all these ideas. And I was like, I'm not going to read any of these things. And then I picked up a book and I really think it like changed the way I looked at romance. I read The Hating Game because I was like, oh, it's such a cute cover.
It's a cover.
I love, and I still do. I love an illustrated cover, but I do think now that I've evolved with my reading, I'm like, okay, sometimes the illustrated covers, they're like deceptive. They're deceptive. And they make you think that there's more romance than there is or less romance than there is. Like less steamy sex
It's so
stuff. True.
So,
that was kind of the turning point. And then I read The Wedding Date and I loved that. And then I kind of like fell into this hole. And if you look at my Goodreads, if you scroll way back, I only read the cutesy covered ones for months. But then earlier in this year, I kind of thought, okay, I'll try some mass market romances. And I found some series that I loved. And then I was like, okay, some publishers sent me some books that were mass market and I figured out how to read them without breaking them. And then I also, I got really sick back in February and I was sick for like a month on IV antibiotics, everything. And somehow in my like diluted sick haze, I was like, I'm going to try historical romance. And I bought a few from Book Outlet.
Oh my gosh.
And then somehow months later, I literally probably have like hundreds of them.
Yes, you've been taking on book sales and just getting historical romance, which is amazing. Yes. I envy the book sales.
I have quite a few now, but I love them. They're so good. I totally see why Katie was like obsessed with them for years.
Yes.
And I had no idea, but they're amazing.
Yeah, I hear you. Like my story, I started reading romance. Well, I started reading again in 2016. I started with YA fantasy. And then I ended up finding new adult. And so that's how I ended up that was my gateway to romance. But I was such a snobbish about historical romance. Like, I was like, I had Teresa come on the show and she talked about historical romance and paranormal. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to talk about contemporary. That's the only thing I read. Why are you talking about historical? And so I had to go back. I ended up discovering historical this year. And because I thought it was like, all cutesy, all like anti-feminist, so just like old people like just talking about titles and not working. And I was like, I'm not reading that. And I read a couple historicals and I was like, mind blown. I was like, this is feminist. This is feminist. This is romance. This is actor. This is contemporary. This is funny.
Welcome, my sisters. Welcome to the world of historical.
Yeah. So now I'm contemporary. So I went back to that Teresa episode and I went back and I listened to all the recommendations and I just basically bought them and started reading them. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a whole world of historical romance.
I have to say, if anybody's like on the fence, like, ooh, I want to try historical romance, go to your library book sales because holy cow.
Oh, yes.
They have so many historical romances because, like, everybody's been reading them for like decades. And you can find some amazing copies of like old historical romances. And most of the time, they're still pretty relevant.
Yeah.
I can only think of a couple that I'm like, I don't know about that. But like, you're so right. Like, I was positive. I was like, this is going to be the least feminist genre ever. And it's so wrong.
I know.
I mean, what you have to think about is that when it comes to, feminism in these historical romances, it's so much more of an obstacle for the heroine to overcome because, it's a man's world, where these books are written for the most part. And they have so much more to overcome and conquer. So it's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I gotta love this. So now let's talk about romance tropes. So we're gonna go. Each one of you are gonna talk about romance tropes. So let's go with Lisa first.
Oh boy,
go-to romance tropes.
So any of my freak between the book sheets girls, shout out. They're gonna know exactly which one I'm gonna say because I talk about it all the time in that group. Marriage of convenience. I just love me some strangers to lovers. We don't even know each other, but now we have to get married to like achieve this like other goal. And most of the time they hate each other in the beginning. It is my go-to. I don't really think okay, so my first one was Roomies by Christina Lauren, and that's a great one. But I didn't really understand what the trope was. I think if you look back at some of my older reviews, I didn't even call it Marriage to Convenience. I literally called it Strangers to Lovers because I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's great. Yeah. So I have a list. Let's see. If I put too many on this list. Okay. So the best of the best, in my opinion, and I picked this one up because Kimberly Faye Reads on Instagram has literally read it like 15 times.
She's reading it now.
I saw that. She just reread it. And I'm like,
she read it like a month ago and she's reading it now. Yes. I love shout out.
So it's The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by, I think it's Mariana Zapata. It is like 700 freaking pages. It is this doorstopper of a book, but it does not feel like it. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, so I actually had no idea how long it was until I was like close to the end. Because I think I read it in like a day and a half. Mm-hmm. I like devoured. It is so good. I think her book, one of her books took me a long time. Her very first one I read. But since then, I can read them a lot faster because I know you're in for a slow burn. Like literally, there's no kissing until like 70% or more in most of her books. But it's amazing. It's a marriage between an NFL star and his housekeeper. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, it's a green card marriage.
I think so. For him. He's like Canadian.
Yeah. It is so good. Like as soon as I was done with it, I was like, okay, I understand why you've read this like 1,000 times, Kim. Like I understand.
Yeah, it was so good.
So then from that one, I was recommended, and I'm pretty sure Teresa Reads Romance recommended this to me when she saw I was reading that one. Lady Luck by Christian Ashley. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Also so good. I just kind of went into it blind because I'm like, if they recommend me any books, I'll read them like without even reading the synopsis. And it's a marriage between an ex-convict and a woman whose fiance was murdered. And if I remember correctly, like he was involved with some shady stuff. Like there's mention of like drug dealers and like literal pimps. It is like way darker in a sense than I would normally read, but I was so sucked in. It's also a really long one. I think it's like, oh gosh, I want to say, I almost went to grab it and look, but that's one of her other books. Pretty much all her books in that series, I think, are over 500 pages. They're pretty long. Okay. It's set in a small town in Colorado. It's pretty angsty, but I loved it.
I just bought it. So thank you.
It's so good. It's so good. I immediately had to go buy like the other ones because I think the first two were on Book Outlet. I think that's number 2 or 3. Okay. But it's really good. So then I have so many. If I start going too long with these recommendations, you cut me off.
You're fine. This is what we're here for. Book recommendations.
Exactly. I have a Marriage of Convenience folder on my Goodreads. It's like the only folder I have. My friend Kate is like the most organized person. Kate reads. And she's tried to convince me to do it. And pretty much this is the only folder I have. Sorry, Kate. Okay. So the next one is Kiss an Angel by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. Yeah. I was recommended this one, I want to say, by pretty much all of mine are recommendations from my Instagram friends. And I think Romance Library recommended this one. Okay. It's so good. It's written in like 1996. So you kind of go in and you're like, is this going to be dated? It's amazing. It felt really current. There's a couple of things that happened that feel a little dated. But it feels like really current. Otherwise, you don't think that like, okay, it was, written like over 20 years ago. But it's more of like an arranged marriage of convenience type of situation. It's literally set in a traveling circus. Her dad marries her off to this guy that runs a traveling circus. It's wild, but it's so good. There's like a twist at the end that I think people who like historical details would really like. Say what it is. Okay, let's see. So now I have a couple that I got off KU, Kindle Unlimited. One is Marriage for One, and I know you were talking about reading this one, Laura. I don't know if you started yet.
I'm starting it next, so that's actually my TBR.
Okay. So it's like the characters are literally called Jack and Rose, which I think is kind of funny.
Oh my God. It's like Titanic homage.
Are you sure it's not Titanic fan fiction?
I don't think so.
There's no boat. Okay.
I think she just liked the names. This is also, I read this one on my Kindle and I had no idea. It's very long.
Okay. Another doorstop.
It's a total slow burn. But he's, I believe, a lawyer, and he proposes to her because he knows that she cannot get her inheritance from her dead aunt and uncle unless she's married. Okay. And she wants to open a dream. Her dream is to open a coffee shop. So okay, that's the little short. It's so good though. It's a total it's kind of like a sunshine in the grump trope. Because he is like the grumpiest, moodiest person. Like he literally scowls at her. I don't think she gets a smile out of him until like halfway through the dang book.
Dang.
Okay, and then the other contemporary one I have is $1 Million Marriage. And I think that one was also recommended by Romance Library. And it is wild. It's a marriage of convenience set on a game show. They have to get married like the first day of the game show and then stay married. And then they also have to decide to stay married once they've gone through all these different obstacles. So it's kind of like if you combined The Bachelor with The Amazing Race. It is so good. This one's pretty short. I think this was less than 300 pages, but I read it super fast because I was like obsessed. Yeah. And then my one historical, now there's a lot of marriage of convenience for historicals because there's a lot of situations where they have to marry so-and-so to get an inheritance or whatever. And I know Katie agrees with me on this. This is like one of the best historical romances we've read this year. The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It is amazing. It is. If you don't think you like historical romance, you have to try this one because it is like historical. There's like a rom-com element. It's seriously like one of the best ones. The banter is amazing. It's so funny. And it has the best meet cute opening, I think, of any book because she is a seamstress. She wants to get paid for this wedding dress that she made for his hero's now ex-fiance.
And apparently it's hideous.
She shows up. It is hideous. It's like snow beast hideous. Yeah. She just literally shows up at his house in the wedding dress. And that's how the book starts. And it is amazing. And those are my recs.
I love it. So I got some recs for you. Did you read Lush Money by Angelina Lopez?
I have not, no.
Oh, it's a merge of convenience. Royalty meets wine country. It's
yes. Give me all the wine country books. I love that.
Yeah, so that was a good one. I think that's like the one that I just had at the top of my head. It's a brand new author. It's a debut novel, but it was just like merge of convenience. They only see each other on weekends on 3 times a month, so she can have a baby.
Oh my God. It's wild. I love it.
Yeah. So how about you, Katie? What's your favorite trope?
Okay, this was actually kind of difficult for me, but I think I'm always going to go to Hate to Love because it's just I don't know what it is. I think it's the banter. It's always you always are guaranteed the most amazing banter in Hate to Love trope. So, and I think actually, I think all of these recommendations probably all came from Kalisa. For the most part, she keeps me in good books. She talks to everybody. So if I ever need a book, she always has like a zillion for me. So but for contemporary, definitely Well Met by Jen DeLuca. That one was, that was probably like my favorite contemporary Hate to Love that I read this year. So it was takes place at the Renaissance Fair, which is perfect for me because I always attend the Renaissance. Well, I don't always, but but I'm definitely a cosplayer, so I love to attend the Renaissance Fair. But yeah, oh my gosh, that one, I didn't think I was going to like the guy. I think one of the things I like about Hate to Love is that I love the idea that the guy's a total jerk that she has to just totally, that the heroine always has to conquer or something. I don't know what it is, but so yeah, Well Met, of course, Sally Thorne's The Hating Game. That was probably the first one that well, actually, no, that's not true. I think the first Hate to Love that I read was probably Christina Lauren's Beautiful Bastard.
Oh yeah.
But which is actually really, yeah, exactly. That brings that back to the fan fiction again. There we go. But honestly, I think The Hating Game probably did it a little bit better because, while Christina Lauren's, was really, really great and really steamy, I think that there was just some more questionable things going on in that one in Beautiful Bastard. But, we can just, it gets better as the series goes on. Yeah, so, and then, you know what? I'm counting this one, even though I don't know if this one was even listed under that trope, but Red, White, and Royal Blue was definitely a bit of, Hate to Love. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's like frenemies to friends to lovers. So it's like, that one definitely kind of love that one. And then of course for historical romance, Then Came You by Lisa Kleypas. That one was, that was a good one. But honestly, the second book though in that series, I probably like a little better. Kel, you had that one, right? Dreaming of You.
Yes. Yeah. I have Dreaming of You listed because a lot of people say that they told me you could just read Dreaming of You like as a standalone. And I think Katie would agree with me. We disagree. Read them in order. Read Then Came You and then Dreaming of You.
Yeah.
I feel like it's heavily featured in the first book. Yeah, I think so. It makes so much more sense.
Yeah, so I read Lisa this year, because I discovered historical romance. So I started with The Wallflowers, and I should have started with Then Came You, then Dreaming of You, then The Wallflowers, and The Rabbit House, because characters do pop up on the different series, which is kind of like cool. You see, like, the bad guy from Dreaming of You shows up in The Wallflowers, and then the Wallflower.
Yeah, is he the dad in like for one of the heroes, and then he's like the grandpa.
He's
in Ravenel's, I think.
Yes, he would have been the grandpa, but he died. He dies in The Wallflowers. Sorry, spoiler.
Spoiler, Laura. Oh my god.
Sorry.
Nix it. Edit it out.
Spoiler alert. The story, it happens really early on in the book. So it's not like, you didn't invest.
Does it happen in Devil of Winter? Because that's like the next one I'm reading.
Yes, and it happens. It's a redemption of Sebastian Sunset. It's like, so, you get to see what happens to him. But it happens really early on in the book. So the book Devil Winter, like he's mentioned in the book, but he's not like, he doesn't play a big character in the book, in the story.
I'm like so excited because that was one of when I was starting my journey into reading her books, that was one of the books that everybody was like, it's amazing, you have to read it. But then I was like, I should read them in order. And then after that, I realized that, because somebody corrected me, because I actually wanted to start with her latest one. Is it the Devil's Daughter or something?
That's like, yeah.
And I wanted to start with that. And then somebody corrected me. And somehow then I was like, oh my God, I have to read like 19 of her books to get to that book.
I think
we're doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
I think we just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I know, I was going to say that I think when people say you can read this as a standalone, when they're picking up a random, like we go to the, secondhand bookstores all the time. So we're picking up all of these historical romances. We're trying to search on Goodreads. Okay, what number in the series this is? And of course, when it's like 15 down the line, you never heard of the series before. It's like, I think we could just read this.
Yeah.
And not start all over.
Yeah. Yeah. With Lisa, it's just kind of like fun. You just get to see. So I think if you have to start Lisa Kleypas, I would say read Then Came You and Dreaming of You, because you got to read Dark Craven.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's only two in that, and technically in that section of the series, there's only the two of them. There's only those two books, so you might as well just read. Yeah,
you just might as well read. Dark Craven gets mentioned in the Wallflower series, but it's like a little over. Like it's the book 3 for that one, and he just gets mentioned in passing, like the events that happen in Dreaming of You. You're like, oh, I know what happened.
And I have to say, Then Came You is like my very first historical romance. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this.
I didn't like that one.
I loved it.
Did you love it?
I loved it.
I did not like it. I actually... Yeah, I didn't like it. I was like, I was annoyed at Lily. I was annoyed at the whole hate to lovers. Like, for some reason, I just did not connect. But I knew I needed to read it in order to get their Craven. So I was like,
well, for me, it was Alex. Alex was the questionable character for me in that one. I was just like, I remember texting Kalista because she had finished it before I read it, and I was just like, okay, please tell me this is the worst part right here. Yeah. I literally felt sick to my stomach. I was like, I'm going to throw up. This section right here. I'm not spoiling anything, but there's just one part in the book where I'm just like, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
Because it was just so like out of control. And I'm just like, no, don't do this. All right, we're past it. Fine. we're fine. Okay, please tell me that was the worst bit. It was. So it was fine. But I can understand why it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. There, like I said, there are some questionable things going on in there. But I liked Lily ultimately. But it was like, Alex, you just want to punch in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It was written in the 90s, so there's problematic things. There were problematic themes. It was written in the 90s. It was like not contemporary. So.
And of course, it's Regency. So, so it's like, there's going to be questionable things. I don't expect every historical to be completely woke, because it does kind of take you out of it especially when you're a history person like I am. It's like, okay, they would not have said that. They would not have done this. I'm like, okay, I understand this because it's this time period. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect everything to be totally perfect. That's definitely not when it was written in the 90s either.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about least favorite romance tropes. So,
oh boy,
what's your go-to?
Okay, anybody that's talked to me ever would know what I'm going to say, and it's age gap. Oh, I don't know if it's because my grad school was social work, and I worked with teenagers, so I had to it was really drilled in my head, the laws of consent and age of consent and everything. And so, if there's a big enough gap that one character could be the other character's parent, probably not going to be able to read it. I will say, that being said, I have read a few that I really loved. I have found that I do better if the older character is the woman. So what's it called? On the Island.
Yes.
By Tracy Garvis Graves, I believe. Amazing. Loved it. Everybody was like, you're going to love this one. And I was like, I don't know. Because she literally is like his teacher in the beginning.
Yeah.
They were right. I loved it. And then the other one, and this is spoiler, not a romance. Do not read this thinking it's a romance. The Idea of You.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And
that's not
that
a romance.
One, I started it. I got halfway through and I was like, kind of horrified because the giant age gap and then the things that happened. I was like, I can't get through this. It's like, it was setting off my cringe meter. Like I feel like almost cringy when there's like massive age gaps. Mm-hmm. And then I put it down for like 3 freaking months and I picked it up again and it was the same thing. I pretty much read the whole second half in one sitting and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but overall age gap, can't do it.
That's understandable, I think.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Katie? What's your least favorite trope?
Okay, so I have to kind of really rack my brain on this one because when it comes to tropes, I feel like, there are exceptions, not the rules. I don't think there's ever really a trope that I will offhand never read. So, but I literally turned to my boyfriend, Sean. I was like, what do I not like? And he's like, you don't like this. And I was like, okay. So I don't even think this is a trope or not, but just too much alpha. If a guy is too much, and this is probably more of a thing in erotic fiction than just plain out romance. But if a guy is just too much, I'm just like, I can't do it. If it's, and you know what I mean? It's when the guy says to the woman, it's like, I know what's good for you. I'm going to make all the decisions. I'm going to do all this. And the book just carries on like she's the one who has to learn something. And it's like, no, that's just ick. No, thanks.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Katie and I are pretty well agreed. We like alphas when they're feminist alphas.
Yes. I mean, like I said, there comes to when you have an agreement. Like, say if you have a BDSM book, and it's like, okay, well, this is just how our rules are going to play out, and it's within means. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. But then it's what I always say to anybody: you can tell me whatever you want in bed, but don't tell me what to do in life.
I know. No Christian Grey for you.
Yeah.
No Christian Grey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, God.
Don't even get her started, Laura. Don't even get her started.
I will go on and on and on.
I know.
I did just finish Chloe's, he's a brute. And I actually really did like that one. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, it was better than I thought it was going to be. I was just like, okay. I just thought there was a lot. I mean, as far as, plot goes, I thought there was a lot going on. It's like, okay, sports, mafia, BDSM. I was like, okay, this is a lot, but this is good.
Okay.
But it's, but ultimately I was like, okay, at least this relationship is much better.
Okay. Yeah, I think Crossfire is another one that I hated. And so the Crossfire series is similar to 50 Shades of Grey. They both are into laws, like alpha male who buys a girl's job, like I buy the company, it's like, okay, I can't,
Yeah, no, it's too much. I mean, okay, so here's an erotic genre that I just got into. Bear with me, Kalisa. So I did just read a reverse, I read a reverse harem recently. Actually, I read 2 of them to kind of compare to see if it was even a genre I even want to get into. Okay. One of them I hated. One of them I hated, and one of them I absolutely loved because it's again, woman is outnumbered by all of these guys. These guys have to be good guys. If these are just like 3, okay. So the first one, I think it was called Mercy for 3, and so she's at this mountain cabin which she owns. Her family owns. This is her cabin. She wants her one woman getaway retreat or whatever to get her mind off her work. So these guys who are her big brother's friends, who are sent up by her mother, basically crash her one woman party and basically saying, we're here and we're going to take care of you. We know what to do and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, this is not, no, why are you crashing her party? It was just
in her own cabin.
Yeah, I was just in her own freaking cabin. And I'm just like, it was just questionable. I'm not even going to get it hugely into it, but it was a lot of questionable stuff going on. And yeah, even though these guys are like, friends and she's known them forever, I'm just like, why are you guys coming in and bossing her around? It's like, this is not, no, go away. Bye. And then, no. So the other one that I read was the Snowed In with the Stuntmen. That one was really good. I was surprised. It sounds even cheesier, but it was so good. So she's an actress on this movie set, and they're like, this whole set is, they're snowed in for the evening. So, filming is stopped. And so she's kind of into I think there's 4 of them, all 4 of these guys, but it was just a lot better because it was all about her and making her happy and not about, okay, yeah, we're all just gonna, share this one girl or whatever. So it was fun, but yeah, enough of that. I'm going on.
I love it. Well, I just discovered reverse harem. Like, I did not know there was a genre until like last week. And there's one girl in book 2 that loves to reverse harem, and she just kept mentioning that. I was like, "Is this a thing?" And so I just emailed. I think I posted on Freaks and the Sheets. So I was like, "Is this a thing? Like, do you read reverse harem? Like, what is that going on?" So I'm just learning about this genre. I still haven't tried it to know if it's too many dicks for me or not.
You can never have too many. Well, that's just me. I know. I'm sorry, Kel.
Katie like knows what face I'm giving her right now. That's why we're friends.
I can see you. I know you're not here, but I can see you. This is what happens when you're friends for like, what would we say, 16
I
years?
think like 16 years. I think
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We basically share a brain now. That's why we send the same. That's why we send each other the same gifts when we're texting each other
at the exact same time all the time.
Awesome. So, Lisa, I love contemporary and historical romance. What have been some of your favorite books of this year?
Okay. So again, I have a list. We'll see how fast I can get through it. So for contemporary, I think one of the first series that I really, really, really loved this year was the Forbidden Heart series by Alicia Ray. Yeah. And oh my God, I like devoured all 3 books. And it was another one, the first one, I was like, I don't know if I'm really feeling it. I put it down for a couple weeks, then picked it back up again. Mm-hmm. They are so good. It's a trilogy. If you've read like The Right Swipe, it introduces the last book in the series introduces the characters or the heroine in The Right Swipe. But it's so good. It's like, I in my notes, I put that it was like high drama, but it's like really hard not to fall in love with the family because it's like, oh God, I just can't get over how good it is. There's like a little bit of a forbidden aspect to each one. The first book, it's kind of like a hate to love, but it feels almost like a Romeo and Juliet retelling because they had kind of like, issues and then the families don't get along. But the second one, the 2 characters, he is the brother of her dead husband. And so there's kind of like this forbidden aspect. And the third one of the few age gaps that I really loved where it's like male-female characters. Mm-hmm. And it's, he's older and I want to say like 10 plus years older than her. But so good. It's so good. So that trilogy is like one of my all-time favorite contemporary romance trilogies. And then another one I loved, and I only picked it up because it was the very first book that we read in our Freak Between the Book Sheets book group. And it was like The Deal and the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I have a mixed feelings with most new adult. Some of them feel a little like, I don't know, they don't really work for me that much. I love this one so much. I read all 4 books, I think within a span of like a week. It's set on a college campus. All the heroes are hockey players. I just feel like the characters are like so endearing, even though like some of them are a little flawed. I love it so much. Some other ones, I just recently read Unspoken by Kelly Rimmer. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. It's the second book in her series. I want to say it's called Startup in the City. I also love the first one, Unexpected. Unexpected is like friends to lovers. She wants to have a baby. If you know anything about like infertility or I want to say she has something, there's some reason she can't have a baby past a certain point. So she has to have it like immediately. A little fuzzy on what it was now, but it's not the most medically accurate book, but I loved it. Yeah. She basically enlists her best friend and roommate to help her have a baby. And of course they fall in love. But it's just really fun to go on that journey with them. And then Unspoken is her, from the first book, it's one of the friends and I believe co-workers of the hero in the first book.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And it's a genre trope that I didn't know I was going to like, which is funny because I am married, but I didn't think I would want to read about romances between married couples. I was like, I want to see them fall in love. No. I love married couple romance. I was wrong. And I love this one so much. It's set literally over like 4 days or 5 days?
Yeah, it's like 5 days. It's like a short period amount of time.
It is. I've never read one that went that fast, but it was amazing. And it starts with them like basically parent trapped by their their friend into their vacation home like 3 days before their divorce is final. And it's God, I loved it. Since like I'm a social worker, I love when there's good conversation and when they talk about therapy. And I thought this one was just really, really well done. Let's see what else do I have. Then I also have Down Too Deep by J. Daniels. I like had mixed feelings about the first book in this series from her, but I freaking love Down Too Deep. It was amazing. It's emotional, like it's like heartwarming. I feel like the way that they discussed grief was really good. It's like probably one of my favorite single parent romances. And I can't really think of a lot where both the characters are single parents, but both of them are single parents. And it's amazing. The kids are also really good side characters, because sometimes you'll find them where the kids are kind of just like annoying, or it's not like, it's not necessary for the kids to be there. It would be a good romance without the kids. But I felt like the kids were like a key part of the story, and they were amazing. And then I know Marriage of Convenience is like my go-to, but my other go-to trope is there's only one bed.
Oh my God.
I want the characters to be locked somewhere during some sort of like, snowstorm or hurricane, and I want there to be
forced
only
proximity.
one bed. Yes. But there has to be like there has to be a one bed situation. Like, because there can be forced proximity, but then like, no, I want you guys to have to share a bed. This is like one of my favorite things. And I think one of the best ones, and I will preface this by saying I love steamy romance. It took me a while. I was like, you'll see.
Another thing that I was like, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
He was right. But if you look at some of my old reviews, I'm like, I liked it, but it was a little too steamy or stuff like that. No, screw it. I love it all.
Yes.
And so I'm pretty adamant that, I prefer there to be like steam and like open door sex scenes in romance. But this one, there's not. It's like fade to black closed door. And I freaking loved it. It's like one of my favorite books. Applied Electromagnetism by Susanna Nix. It's part of her series, and all the heroines are like in the STEM field. So they're all scientists, everything. This one, both the characters, I don't remember what their job is, but they have the same job. Okay. They have to go out to go check a job site in Texas. They're based in California, so they have to go out to Texas. There's a road trip aspect because it's in the middle of nowhere. They get stuck in this motel during a hurricane, and they have to share a bed at some point. It is amazing. It's like, it's such a good book. But there's like absolutely no open door steam. So I was like, not prepared to love it because of that, but no, I loved it. And then this is my second historical romance, and we already talked about it a little bit, Dreaming of You by Lisa, and Katie and I always mispronounce her name. I think it's Kleypas.
I think so. I say Kleypas or Kleypas, I think. Yeah. I think. I don't know.
You know who we mean.
Yeah, it's this one.
It's the queen of historical romance.
Yes.
So many people told me, they were like, you have to read it. You have to read it. I know Christine Happa on Instagram, she was like, you need to read it. She would just literally message me. I think she just messaged me once, Derek Craven. And I was like, okay, I get you.
Oh, Derek.
But my first note is like in all caps with exclamation points, and it just says Derek Craven. Because he's amazing. I love
Derek is the best.
He's like one of the best historical romance heroes. But I love how it starts, because like the heroine in the book, she's like this badass author who like writes about social justice and all this stuff. And he's like so flawed, but so endearing. And it like literally starts with her pulling a gun and killing this guy that's attacking him. And like, I don't know how you could have a better, more badass heroine than that.
Yeah.
So those were my favorite ones that I read this year.
I love it. Did you listen to the Fate of Mates episode?
I haven't. I need to go listen to it. It's like flagged in my podcast.
Yeah, I think you should listen to it. It'll just give you more context. Sarah talks with Lisa, and she asks her questions, and she's like, this is the interpretation, is like, the Derek did XYZ, and you're like, I don't know. You know what to think. So that's a good episode to listen.
Yeah, I need to go listen to that, because it's seriously like one of my favorite books I've read this year.
And J. Daniels was in the show. And she mentioned that she actually is a mom of twins. So she always wanted to have twins in her books just because she's inspired by those. And that children is easier to write. That's why the children were so like realistic. She's like, because they were easier to write.
Yeah, that explains why they felt so like true to life.
Yeah.
Compared to like other authors that have written kids' characters, hers feel like real people.
Yeah, they felt like real people. They were like honest. They were like sharing things. They were so yeah. All right. So Katie, you love contemporary, historical, and fantasy. Tell us about your books of this year.
Okay, so my list is, I didn't even really organize it by genre, so it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. And technically my favorite fantasy, I wouldn't even necessarily consider it a romance, but it's really much more YA light fantasy, but Holly Black's Folk of the Air, which does have some romance in it. Yes. I can go on for days about it. I absolutely loved it. I've been hearing like sort of mixed things on Instagram. I don't even think I told you about it, Kelly, but I came across a DNF for The Cruel Prince. I came across a review that they totally didn't finish it. And I was just like, no, now I feel bad. I don't think it was because they saw me recommend it, but I was just like, oh no, someone didn't like it. Oh, now I'm sad. But that whole series to me was just like absolutely amazing because I mean, it's like, it's a trilogy and then you just have all these characters that are just totally well developed, incredibly, everyone's flawed, which I feel is more real to me. There's like, you don't really want to read a book about a bunch of Mary Sues, but it's just, there's a whole lot of character arcs and build up. And it's like, and just like again, not giving anything away, but I love the ending. I loved how it all turned out. So I'm just like, this is just, if I had to recommend one like whole series that I read this year that I will probably read again next year. So it's definitely the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. First one, The Cruel Prince, amazing, loved it. And yes, definitely some romance elements in it. But because it's YA, again, not incredibly steamy, but I feel like, and I agree, I think when a book is written well enough, you don't need the steam. It doesn't always need to be there for me to enjoy it. So I loved it. Another YA definitely has a little bit more romance in it was, okay, forgive me for botching the last name, but The Beautiful by Renee, is it Ade? Ade, yes. I love that one. I know Kalisa hadn't read it yet, but she has it. She has it on her list somewhere. But yeah, that one was also a very slow burn. That has a little bit of light paranormal, light romance in it, but it's more of a historical than anything. It's set in like the 1800s in New Orleans. And if one likes vampires, that's a good one to go into. So I loved that one. That was, again, also YA, but a little bit more romancy, I felt. And then going back to Jen DeLuca's Well Met with the Renaissance Fair, that was definitely my favorite Hate to Love. Like I said, this woman is, she basically has to volunteer for this Renaissance fair that her niece is in high school and she wants to volunteer for the town's Renaissance fair, but she can't do it without a parent or guardian. Her sister can't do it. She was just in a car accident. So she has to volunteer for the Renaissance fair, doesn't know what she's doing. So she's like, all right, I guess I'm going to be a bar wench now. And the guy running it is like this English teacher who is just way too serious, way too history oriented, and is just like he's waiting for her to quit. Like he thinks that she's just going to be all trouble, just waiting for her to quit. And she's just like, I'm going to show you, I am not going anywhere, and I'm going to win you over or something. It was so good. And then, and then for historical, if anyone also like historical, there's another subgenre, Highlanders. I am very into Highlanders. So there's the first one in the series that I read. Actually, I read a couple of them already. But An English Bride in Scotland by Lindsay Sands. Lindsay Sands is hilarious, and her historical, her Highlanders are really, really light and funny. I honestly just thought it was like historical Highlander comedy because it was a trip. So but that's pretty much my favorites of this year, I think. Again, kind of a hodgepodge.
So I read The Cruel Prince, and I did not continue with the series because I was thinking about YA books that come out once a year. And I had to read them all together. So I was like, I'm afraid of nothing, you know? And I actually asked, I was like, is it still worth the hype, you know? Because it's a hype book. It is. And I almost feel bad hyping it up because I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I definitely, there was, I mean, you've read the first one, you know, there are definitely some parts of the first one that are kind of
I mean, I wouldn't even say questionable, but definitely make people uncomfortable because it's almost like being in high school again. And, but the person, I can't remember the account that totally did not finish it, but they were just saying that what was happening was irredeemable. And I'm just like, you didn't finish it. You might want to finish it to see, because there's other things that happen. It's like without trying to give away spoilers, like you have to finish it though.
Yeah.
Everything comes full circle.
Yeah, I feel like that's a Holly Black thing, that she'll tie everything together along with a few cliffhangers.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, at least now that the series is finished, you definitely need to continue on with it, because the second book I was just like, oh shoot, because I basically read Cruel Prince and Wicked King back to back, and Wicked King has a big cliffhanger, and I was like, shoot. I was like, because at the time, Queen of Nothing wasn't going to come out until January, and I was just like, what? No. Why did I do this to myself? I was like, no. And that's when I turned to fan fiction again. I turned to Cruel Prince fan fiction.
If you don't complain to your best friend, because I literally heard Katie complain about this cliffhanger for like a month.
I was like, no.
Always wait till the series is done and then read it.
I know.
I think that's my rule for moving forward, was to just read complete series. Like, cannot wait a year. Like, there can be a cliffhanger, there can be some information, and then I forget about it. I just need the series to be completed so I can actually finish the series.
Okay,
well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have to ask, is this like just a pet peeve of mine when you read a book and it says nothing on the Goodreads about if there's a cliffhanger? Because I just finished one the other day. It's a freaking cliffhanger. I had no idea, and I'm so sad because I don't even know when the next one's coming out.
Yeah, I don't think I hardly think you're alone in that. I think they should at least warn you, by the way, it ends on a cliffhanger, without even saying what it is, just saying it's a cliffhanger and there's no next book after this. So I would like a warning.
Yeah, I would like a warning for it. Like, just because
it's almost like a trigger warning. Like,
I love it. Romance, like, if you look at romance authors, it's like, no cliffhanger, top of the rafter. You know, like, you're like, yay, it's a great thing. And I'm like, no, tell me if there's a cliffhanger.
No, because the one I read, I will say I freaking loved it. It was Whiteout by, it's coming out in January.
Wait,
Adriana.
that has a cliffhanger?
It has a cliffhanger!
What? Mind blown.
I was like at 5%, and I'm like, too much stuff is happening. And then I got to the end, and I was like, oh my God. It ends on a massive cliffhanger, in my opinion. And I was just, so I immediately went and I was like, when's the next one coming out? And there's like no info on when the next one is coming out, because this one isn't even out yet. This is the problem with reading ARCs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
You don't even know. And then you're like stuck for like even longer.
Yeah. So you're like stuck for like a whole year or 2 years. Like, you have.
Yeah. So when I do my review on that one, I'm going to be like, there is a cliffhanger. Don't be like me. Know what you're getting into. But it's so good. It's so good. It's forced proximity. There's only one sleeping bag.
Ooh. That's awesome. All right. So, Kovisa, which books did you read this past few months that you recommend?
Okay. I have to tell you, this question literally took me forever, because how dare you tell me to only pick 3?
I know.
We only have so much time, Kalisa. We only have so much time.
This was so hard. Okay. So here we go. And I saw because I looked at Katie's list, and one of them we agree on, because it's like one of the books we've read this year.
I agree with that too.
Yeah. Yes, it's so good. Okay, so I want to say it's Xeni, Xeni, by Rebecca Witherspoon, and it's the second in the series. If anybody's read Rafe, the hot male nanny, or the buff male nanny, it's like, and that one kind of also has a cliffhanger. It kind of leads into this book, but you could read this one as a standalone. But this one's about the best friend, and it's a marriage of convenience. Yeah. And the characters must get married in order to receive the inheritance both of them get after the heroine's aunt dies. So I think the best way to describe it, there's an author quote, and this is the author quote about the book. A bisexual witch finds herself part of an elaborate marriage plot with a plus-sized bisexual bagpiper. And there's also a sex chair romance scene you've been waiting for. And that's the book.
Is that on my list?
Yes, I texted you immediately. I was like, oh my God.
Okay, yeah. I was just like, wait a second.
Yeah, both the characters are bisexual. It's really, really well done.
Okay, I need to read this.
Like they both talk about their sexuality like really openly with each other, which you don't really see a lot. This is the first one I've read where both of them are bisexual. And it's short. It's like less than 300 pages. It's one of my favorite books I read this year.
I just bought
it. Then another one is American Dreamer by Adriana Herrera, I believe. And it is so good. It's a male-male love story. One's a librarian and one is a food truck entrepreneur who's running this like Afro-Caribbean food truck. Mm-hmm. It's like an Own Voices romance. Mm-hmm. It's set in like, I think upstate New York. Yeah. It's so well written. It's like pretty emotional. I feel like it's really timely with like the stuff they're having to deal with in the book. And there's like real life issues. There's like a woman who like, you know, treats the food truck entrepreneur like this like terrible immigrant. It feels very like timely for what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
So good. Yeah,
I only read a couple of like male
romances.
One was Red, White, and Royal Blue. Katie and I actually buddy read that one.
Oh yeah, that was so good. I was so happy with that one. Yeah, it made me so happy.
This was one of the other ones I read, and it is delightful. I love it so much. And then the one that Katie and I agree on, the Bromance Book Club.
Book Club.
Oh my God. So good. This is the book that made me realize, okay, I love romances about married couples. It like spoke to my little feminist heart. There's like these like woke athletes and other like kind of like alpha guys that read romance to save their relationships. And I am obsessed.
They are so good. And it's so incredibly funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is hilarious. Like Katie and I,
a lot of laugh out loud moments for sure.
Mm-hmm. We didn't buddy read this. I think we read this one back to back. Like I
think we did. Yeah. Well, you kind of sped through it. Well, even when we start books at the same time, especially when it's on Kindle, we both read faster on Kindle, but you read even faster. Yeah. So you'll always finish something up. And I'm like,
I'm a speed reader and Katie is a saver. She savors the book.
I do. I do.
But she also picks up way more details than I do. So it's fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, somebody has to.
Right.
I'll be like, did you catch this? You're like, wait, what?
What?
Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah, I'm like, you didn't get this in between the lines thing? I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So, Lisa, you should read American Fairy Tale because I like that better than American Dreamer. American Dreamer was really good, but American Fairy Tale was even better.
I know. American Fairy Tale, I'm like 10 or 15% into it. And then I had to put it down to pick up some like ARC that I like said I would read.
Yeah.
And I just forgot to pick it back up. I have that one. I have American Love Story is the third one.
I had that one too. Actually, I've been meaning to pick it up. But for some reason, I just haven't. I just got too many books to read. But that's actually on my list.
Same. I'm pretty sure those two are going to be in like my January, February piles because I want to be ready for when the fourth and final one comes out because I'm really curious how I'm going to like a book from her that's like male-female couple. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see what that one's about, but I love her writing so much. But she's also a social worker, so I feel like she gets like the emotional depth of these characters really well. And I love them.
Yeah, she writes about consent. She writes about like the stories. I love. I've talked to her. She came on the podcast, and she's for writing because of the elections, and it's like so timely, like the whole immigration. And she's writing Afro-Caribbean Latinos, which is not a lot of voices have been heard. Yeah, it's actually really good. It's a unique voice that I'm grateful that she's doing.
Yeah, I feel like her series is like one of the most like diverse and like well-written series that I've read this year. Like it's so good. And I need to read her novella because you were telling me that there's only one bed situation.
There's only one bed and it's a baking competition. So right now I'm looking for all baking competition books. Like after watching the Greatest British Baking Show, I'm like, I need to watch baking competition.
Yes, so somebody needs to like, there needs to be like a full-length book where it's like the British Baking Show, but they like hate each other.
Yeah, so it's Hate to Lovers, Only One Bed, both Dominican, on a baking competition. So good.
Yes, I have to read it. It sounds amazing.
Awesome. So Katie, how about you? What 3 books do you read over the past few months that you would recommend?
Well, obviously we already talked about Bromance Book Club, so I'll just kind of like not go over that again. You know, we can totally go on for it forever. But you know what? Sky McDonald's Not Suitable for Work was probably one of my favorite contemporary romances. Office romance, work rivals, and interestingly, not Hate to Love. So that was actually kind of what made it different because, I mean, we all know that The Hating Game was kind of the sort of similar thing. It was like work rivals, but also Hate to Love. No, this one was different. Just work rivals. And definitely kind of sort of developing like an office relationship, you know, within their whole, rivalry here. But I really like that one very much. And and Khalees and I, we sort of read that back to back, didn't we?
Yeah, you read it and then you hyped it up so much that I was like, okay, I need to read it immediately.
I need to read it now. Again, Sky sent me a copy.
It's so good.
So it was really good. And what I liked was that it kind of stepped away from a lot of the tropes that, because when you read as many contemporaries as we do, you kind of notice a pattern. You notice that there's always like, this thing, the arc, and then the grand gesture. And I kind of was getting really burnt out on the big romantic grand gestures. And I'm just like, are we doing this? And I'm like, okay, all right. We're easing off of that now. Okay, good. But yeah, no, I actually thought that was that was a 5-star read for me. So it was great. The other one though, technically this one is not a romance. It is an historical. It is Kerrigan Byrne who, writes a lot of historical romances, but Business of Blood, which was her, sort of a Jack the Ripper, historical story. There's potential for romance in there, but here's the problem. It's a very, very slow burn. And it ended on a cliffhanger, and that next one's not coming out for a while. So, I know. So I was just like, oh no. It's going to be on Kindle Unlimited, but I was just like, wait, why'd you leave me here? And the next one's not coming out till next November.
Oh no, that's like a long way. It's
a long way. And I'm like, wait, Kerrigan, why? Why do you do this to us? But I would recommend that one for people who are more historian people who also don't have a problem with bloody details, because like I said, it does take place 2 years after the Jack the Ripper murders in London. So in 1890, I think. And and they do talk about like the crime scenes like in detail. So if anyone is very like sensitive to that sort of thing, this is not the book for you. It is called The Business of Blood. So that might be your first clue. But if you do like slow burn, you like history, and you definitely like a series that follows the same characters, definitely, for sure. But oh my God, but probably wait until closer to next November if you don't want a cliffhanger.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was just like, no, I know it's bad too. I was like, what? Why are you stopping here?
I know. I think you texted me and because I think you finished reading that one kind of late at night, and then I get like an all caps text from you, and I was like, oh no, it's a cliffhanger.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Oh no.
I always can count on you for being awake though.
Yeah, that's true.
for those texts.
No.
So, Kalisa, what books are on your TBR?
Okay.
Oh no.
No. I tried to condense it. So I have a backlist list, and then I have some that are coming out next year.
Okay.
So backlist, I have a lot of historical romance that I want to read, because I'm just now starting to get into it. Everybody's been recommending me all these. One of them is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie by Jennifer Ashley. Mm-hmm. That one was recommended to me. It's a marriage of convenience, but the hero is also on the autism spectrum. And Katie and I both love reading those.
Oh, so yes.
That one I'm very excited to read. And then everybody's described this as like one of the best historical romances, and it's Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase. I haven't read it. I might read it in January, but I'm like almost afraid to read it because it's like so hyped up. Mm-hmm. But I've never read any of hers, and I'm hoping I really like her because, library book sales, I actually have quite a stack from her. So. Mm-hmm. Another one, this is historical romance, but it was written this year, and I want to say she's a debut author. I might be wrong.
She's a debut author.
The Widow of Rose House.
Yeah.
By Diana Biller. And you actually sent me that one, so thank you.
Okay. I thought so. I was like, I think I sent it to someone.
Yeah, but I know Kate reads, and then Readaholic 19, they both loved it. And I think Romance Library also loved it. So everybody's like, so hyping it up so much. And I'm like, I need to read it. So that one I'm really excited about. Big Bad Cowboy by Carly Bloom.
So good. So good.
I'm so excited to read that one because everybody's like, it's steamy, it's cowboys, it's a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, just like yes to all those things. Cowboys was another one. I was like, I don't know. You know, we're I don't want to say city girls, we're like suburbs girls. So Cowboys is like, I don't know about this. But I read some from AJ Pine. Love her Cowboys because hers are like California Cowboys. So she like got me into it. And I'm just like really, really excited about this one after everybody hyping it up. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by, is it Talia Hibbert?
Yeah.
I love when there's good chronic illness representation in romance, since, you know, I have one. And so I read a little bit of it, but then again, I had to bump it to like read ARCs that were coming out. So I'm really excited to like go back and finish reading it because everybody's like, it's showing up on so many top book lists of the year right now. And it's just making me want to like toss everything and start reading it.
Yeah.
And then Him and Us by Serena Bowen.
And Elle Kennedy.
I love her hockey romances so much.
So this is an Elle Kennedy and Serena Bowen combination.
Yes.
So it's even better. You get the best of both worlds.
I just like both of them. I love their hockey romances because I read Rookie Move and I'm going to say Moonlighter from Serena Bowen. And then I've read like quite a few of Elle Kennedy's. And it's just, they're so good. So I'm really excited to like read one that's like a male romance. And then Lush Money I do have on the list. Is that the one you mentioned to me earlier?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew Marriage of Convenience, obviously. Anything Marriage of Convenience is going to be on my list. And then I have a couple 2020 that I'm really excited about. So we decided the first buddy read that Katie and I are reading together. My birthday is the first week of January. And so I want to read like a book that I'm really excited about. So thank you, Berkeley gods. We somehow both got ARCs to
It was a miracle.
I don't know how it happened, honestly.
Well, they kept me waiting too. I was just like, they're not going to approve me. They're not going to approve me because you got approved right away. And I was just like,
crazy because
I waited too long. They're so picky with everybody. Like NetGalley turned me down for Well Met, which is also Berkeley, and I was just like, okay, I'll get that on Edelweiss because they like me there. But that's why I threw that shade in that review. It's like where I'm good enough on Edelweiss. No, but no. But thankfully, maybe, I don't know, maybe they were paying attention. Maybe they're like, oh, we better approve her now.
I don't know. I'm so happy we both got it though, because we can buddy read it. Because I was because I just like, since we both loved Romance Book Club so much, I just really wanted to like read this one with Katie, and the people who have read it have said it's like so good.
I'm really excited about it.
And they're going to read a romantic suspense in it, because in the first one they read a Regency, and this one they're reading a romantic suspense, and I'm just like so excited.
Yes.
And then one of the other ones I have, and this one I don't really email and ask publishers for a lot of books. We have our partnership with like Forever Romance, so I got a lot of books from them. But I work with Kensington a little bit with some other PR companies. And I love Rebecca Witherspoon's. I just love her books so much, the ones I've read. And so when I saw that she was having one through them that they were publishing, I had to get it. And they were so sweet. And they sent me a copy, and I like almost screamed when I opened it because I'm so ready. It's A Cowboy to Remember. It comes out in like February.
I got that on.
It is, I cannot wait because I love her books. But it's basically a Sleeping Beauty retelling set on a Black-owned dude ranch. Yes. Just yes, please to all of it. I am excited. And I believe it's set in California too. So, I love me some California cowboys. I don't know. And then I have a couple from Forever Romance that I'm really excited about. The Trouble with Hating You. I think that one doesn't come out until like July or something. And then The Boyfriend Project. Those two. I love illustrated covers. I probably would just read them just based on the cute covers, but really excited about both of those two.
That's really exciting. So I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I found it slow at the beginning, and then it just went right off. So
because I think I want to say I'm like 15 or 20% in, maybe a little further, but it is very slow during that part. But I remember somebody in our group like was saying, I think they got to like the really, really steamy parts, and they were like in public and they were listening to it. So I'm ready. I'm ready for the steamy parts.
Yeah, I think the people who are like, all these non-romance reader read it because it was book of the month, and they're like, it's too steamy, it's too steamy. And I'm like, that's not that steamy.
Yeah. That's one of the things, like, I love a good illustrated cover, but I feel like with the non-romance readers who aren't comfortable with like open door sex scenes, they go in going, oh, this is going to be so cute. And then there's like some crazy, like, steamy sex stuff going on, and then they get mad and they leave bad reviews. So I have like mixed feeling. I personally love illustrated covers, but I think to people that don't read romance, it can be confusing.
Wasn't that the whole problem with the Kiss Quotient, where it was like a really cute cover and those sex scenes were detailed? I was surprised. Like, I mean, I was happy. I was pleasantly surprised, but I was just like, ooh, okay, this wasn't unexpected.
Neither of us mentioned like Kiss Quotient and Bride Trust, but holy crap, Katie and I love Helen so much.
Yes. Yes.
She's like one of our favorite authors. And I know when the next book comes out, it's going to be like on one of our favorites lists. We will patiently wait.
I know, 2021. You have to wait.
I know. But it's going to be amazing. Just know with Kwan's book, it's going to be amazing.
I cannot wait. I love him so much.
I know. Oh, so good.
You know, throughout the the series, he's always been like the little shiny beacon there. Like he's the one who like kind of had to hit Michael upside the head. Like, you realize what you did, right? Dude, think about it. He's the smart one.
Just to like gush about her books even more. My husband, who is a science fiction fantasy reader, he wanted to read it because it was like, okay, cute cover. She's like, a math nerd. He's also a math nerd in real life. And he read the Kiss Quotient and he loved it.
Aww.
So that just shows how good her books are.
Yeah, wasn't he like sitting with the book and he was like, this is kind of hot.
Yes. He read it in like less than 24 hours and I took notes. It's like, we have it in a stories highlight because his notes, his like little comments to me as he was reading it were so funny. So they're like in our highlights on Instagram.
So funny.
And then for him and us, you should download Christmas in the City. So you can
yes, I have that.
Oh, okay, great. Because there's a short story for that. So it's like a follow-up of a follow-up. Because there's a wax series after him and us, there's the wax series. So there's total 4 books, and then there's a short story. And
yes, and I want to say I have some of the WAGs ones because I saw them on my Kindle. It's like Good Boy or something.
Yeah, Good Boy. They both have like dogs in the covers.
Another thing that's deceptive in romance, if you see a dog and you think it's going to be cute, and then there's a bunch of steam, the dogs know what's hiding in those books.
Yeah.
I think the dogs are like the hidden clue. They're like the Easter egg. Like, oh, there's a dog on the cover. There's probably steam in here.
There's probably steam. It's open door. There's multiple sex scenes. I'm all about multiple sex scenes.
Instead of a fly on the wall, it's the dog.
It's the dog.
The dog is watching.
Yeah. All right, Katie, what books are TBR?
Okay, so for the 2020 releases, of course, we already went over Uncover of Romance. I was a minority, but I really did like Tessa Bailey's Fixer Up. So the next one, Love Her or Lose Her, is definitely on my TBR. I think you started it, right? I don't know if did you finish it?
No.
I did.
No, I didn't. I know. It's kind of, I'm hearing mixed things. So I have to read it if I'm going to form an opinion. So I might as well but that's definitely on the list there.
I think I'm going to withhold if I'm, if I'm going to finish it based on what you say.
Well, yeah. I like to read on ahead and basically say, oh yeah, give this a shot. Okay. And then, another one, I had to get this one, A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mills Vane, which I hear is basically like a Khal Drogo gets his queen or whatever. So like Game of Thrones sort of thing going on. I'm actually pretty intrigued by that. So that's kind of I think that was like, a fantasy romance thing going on. And so I actually narrowed my list down to like about 3 to 4 each because I'm like, I'm not making a big list here. So on the back list though, I have The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics, which is a female on female romance, historical, which I am dying to try. So, because I like I said, you don't get a lot of those. You don't get too many historicals, MM or FF. So I'm just like,
Aren't they both like scientists or astrologists or something? And it's
I think so.
I think there are.
Like there are some sort of Regency geniuses, something like that. Yes. So I'm like, they have to be like, I mean, at least stargazers, but like, but I am dying. I'm absolutely dying to try that. And then, of course, my next one on the back list, Kalisa has been like just shoving this one. Well, not shoving it, but I've been wanting to read it. But Shacking Up by Helena Hunting has been on my list forever. And she's like, you got to read this. You got to read this.
Okay,
and then shirtless cover.
That was my first shirtless cover. That was like got me into like, okay, because I freaking love Helena Hunting. She's like my go-to for rom-coms. Yeah. But the one that I've been like shoving down Katie's throat is probably Hooking Up because it's the best of the series.
Yes.
What number down the line?
That's number 2.
Second one?
That's number 2.
Okay, yeah.
So you
and I have both
it.
of them. I have both. Yes, I do. So probably technically both of those will be on the list this year. Let's see. Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. I've been hearing pretty good things about that one. I kind of keep forgetting. I remember what the cover looks like.
Is that the Jafar one?
I think so, yes. Yeah. I think so. There's a snake on the cover.
It's like a Jasmine Jafar retelling, I think.
Yeah. And I like I said, somebody was saying, I read an article on it and I think somebody tried to list it as a dark romance. I'm like, no, it's not dark. It's just, a retelling of this, that, and the other thing. But I heard good things about it. And then of course, we both had, I know at some point we both wanted to read The Switch by Lindsay Sands.
Yes.
Which is, so you have the twin girls who basically are running away. One of them dresses up as a boy for safety reasons, so they look more like a man and a woman traveling together instead of two women, for safety reasons. They come across someone and why is my computer making noise now? Sorry. But yeah, so they come, I can't remember like who it is that they come across, but yeah, so the guy, I think, do they both fall in love with this one guy, or is it like one of them falls in love, but she falls in love when she's dressed as a boy? So
I think she falls in love when she's dressed as a boy based on like if I remember correctly, because I got that one first. It was one of our like book off finds because Laura, we all love a good book off.
Yes.
It was like $1 and I like had to grab it because Katie's been like raving about her books forever.
She's so funny.
I just grabbed it and I didn't even read the synopsis, and then in the car I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, because I love a good like Regency, but then they have to like dress up as a dude. Like, yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. Yeah. To boy or not to boy. That's that's the tagline. That's the little tagline. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much obviously both of our TBRs are probably much longer than what we've just listed, but just to narrow it down, that's pretty much it.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all your book recommendations. This was amazing.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Have a great day.